Onesies, a podcast about one season wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
And my name is Emily.
And we are working our way through Police Squad in Color, the 1982 ABC sitcom created by the Zucker brothers and Zaz. Jim
Abrams.
Okay. And starring Leslie Nielsen, which of course became the Naked Gun movies. And so we are on episode 3, A Bird in the Hat, or The Butler Did It.
Bird in the Hand.
Bird in the Hand.
Or The Butler Did It. Yeah.
Or The Butler Did. Is there a bird in
I don't know, but I can't believe I didn't put it together. Okay.
Okay.
Funny.
With very special guest star Robert Goulet. Go on.
Very handsome man. I'm so disappointed that the mustache is turning into a thing. I don't know if you see young men with mustaches running around. It's cool, but it's only cool on older men, I think.
I saw it a little bit after lockdown started lifting. I have not seen it in bulk since then,
I see it a lot.
Well, I'm afraid that
I'm in Hunktown though, so all the hunks have mustaches.
It's just some hunky guy with a shitty Rod Jeremy mustache. That's got to be interesting. Cool. Okay, so the episode starts at a birthday party, and we need to get the guest stars up because
we didn't do our 3 things.
We didn't do our 3 things, and
so that'll give us time to pull up the special guest stars. So my 3 things are monkey in a suit, a jazz band that only knows one song, and charades with mime.
Okay. Mine will be here. Well, Nordberg, for sure. Can't do mime anymore, can I? The beach or the lake. We'll do that. And then tubas? Maybe tubas. Nah. Okay, I'm going to say tubas, but it's actually the racist thing we're going to talk about in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so one problem I'm having right away is I can't find the guy who plays the dad on IMDb.
Mr. Burton. Mr. Burton.
I don't... He's a very familiar character actor.
It's not Nicholas Coster?
Did he age terribly? Let me look. Oh my goodness, he aged terribly. Yes, he was in an airport movie. Okay, and he was in All the President's Men. He was on Star Trek: The Next Generation. So basically, I saw him a lot growing up. But yes, Nicholas Coster, who does not. It's fine. He was in one of the. It's like he was in some movie with Molly Ringwald too. Okay, so the episode starts at a birthday party. It is Terry's birthday party. Terry is played by Lilibet Stern. She's only in the episode for a little bit because she gets kidnapped. Her boyfriend, Ken Michelman, apparently nobody who guest starred on this show went on to anything. But Ken Michelman wants to marry her, and she needs more time to give him an answer. Nicholas Coster plays her father. Kay Callan plays the mother. They're wealthy.
They have a jazz band playing the one song that they know, apparently. Or no, excuse me. They know 2 songs because Dad interrupts and has the band play Happy Birthday to the daughter, which is cute. She's really cute in this. I thought she was really sweet. I don't know. There was something about her characterization, especially later, which I'll talk about a little bit. She's really sweet. She just seems like down to earth for, a rich girl. I loved her. But the jazz band and their one song comes back later, just playing the one song. And it's really annoying because the first 2 minutes is just like a camera weaving through the party with this one song, essentially 8 bars of a song playing repeatedly over and over and over and over. It's really annoying until they go into Happy Birthday, but they could only buy the rights to the one song, I guess.
And then the cake is a nice bit when she blows out the candles. The cake goes off the table.
I was surprised. That was the first joke.
And it was kind of a long lead into the first joke because it was really just the setup at the party.
Yeah.
It was like an episode of Automan almost.
Like it too.
If the villains had started talking. Oh, and we should mention this episode is directed by George Stanford Brown,
Right.
who guest starred last episode and died in the opening credits. So if this holds, Robert Goulet will be directing next episode, but I don't think it holds.
I don't think so.
And Pat Proft has the teleplay credit. Pat Proft being a famous-ish comedy writer of the 80s.
Did you know that George Stanford Brown was not only married to Tyne Daly, but like won Emmy Award for his work on that show that she was on, Cagney and Lacey.
Directing or guest starring?
I think it was either directing. I think it was directing. Anyway,
I did not know that. Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
So Kingsley and Terry need to talk. So they go out into the Japanese garden, which is a bunch of Japanese people of various ages standing in planters. At one point, he gives her a Japanese man's collar to smell because it is like a flower.
Could have been worse.
Could have been worse. Sorta is a nice example of sort of passive anti-Asian racism, which Asian people have been talking about since oh gosh, I don't know, probably the 1800s, and well, it was a little bit more active for a while there.
Yeah.
And white people say isn't real. So yeah.
It was. So, I did a little emoji of like the face with like the mouth. That's what I drew next to Japanese garden. It was again. Ooh.
Yikes was my note. But hey, we were expecting a lot more problematic stuff from this, so we're doing well. Remember that first show we watched that was all about the little boy growing up to be a rapist? Mm-hmm. That was a show. Okay. Yeah. So Terry then gets kidnapped, and apparently the boyfriend gets knocked unconscious. This bit comes back where we see it again. It's not a very good boyfriend knocked unconscious.
No, it's not a very good, but I would like to talk about when it comes back again.
Yes, we will talk about that.
Because even though it's not one of my three things, I have a very interesting note about that.
Okay. But now we cut to Frank, and Frank has been working on the murders at the zoo. And we've got Frank in his car. We've got the narration. We've got just the shot on Frank. And he talks about how he's bringing in a suspect. And then it pulls back to reveal
monkey in a suit. Make me chimp in a suit. Yes. It's very problematic using animals in that way. But God damn it, it makes me laugh every time.
I hope that chimp had a great time, and we will talk about it later.
Oh my God. It was so stupid.
It was nowhere near as bad as it. That also was not as bad as it could have been.
And it comes back again, following on last episode's predictions.
Yes. Which we'll talk about it later. Don't spoil it.
I know.
I know you want to talk about it. You want to talk about upside down reading names, which was funny. It wasn't like hilarious, but it was funny.
Yeah.
And, Frank gets to the party. He introduces himself to the butler and gives him his card or something, or he's got the address and he's reading it upside down. And so
instead of Maple Street, it's L Pam, I guess.
It's whatever upside. It's like the letters reversed because they're reading it upside down.
Yeah.
So it doesn't actually work, but it's not real, but it's funny. And then the butler does the same thing with Frank's business card. So then we get some more wordplay once Frank runs into the captain, Ed. He says that there's a ransom note. They made a demand, and he sent the note to the lab, and they want $1 million. And Frank's like, why does the lab want $1 million? And Ed's like, no, Frank, the ransom's for $1 million. Once again, continuing that everybody in Police Squad is stupid, but Squad sort of shows off that everybody in the Police Squad universe is stupid, but sometimes Frank is stupider than everybody else. Sometimes he won't be. But that's part of the joke is everybody here is stupid. There's nobody who's smart. Nobody's Bugs Bunny or whatever. Like, everybody's kind of dumb. So Ed says, I'll show you the scene of the abduction.
Yes.
And instead of taking him out to the Japanese garden, thank Jesus Christ, Ed walks them over to a film projector that's set up, and they watch the film of the abduction as we saw it in the
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. And what's funny about it is that when, like you said, not only does the boyfriend getting knocked out doesn't seem like the boyfriend's getting knocked out. Two, you can see the guy's face who's kidnapping her. All they had to do was stop it on like 5 frames, and you can see the guy's face clearly.
That's not how film strips worked.
I know.
This
And
came out or
and
something.
again, all the police are dumb, right? Everybody's dumb in this.
So maybe that wasn't intentional. Yes. So this is also weird because they send the boyfriend home, and I'm like, the boyfriend's probably in on it, right? Like,
You gotta
but
think, but they sent him home because he had a head wound. But then he's whatever, out playing basketball
yeah,
the next day, whatever.
well, yeah, which is actually a very amusing scene, thanks to Leslie Nielsen.
Agreed.
Okay, so then they interview the parents, and there's some confusion about Frank's name. Or no, there's not. It's like says Mr. Drebin, and Frank's like the feeling is mutual. So like we get to the funny like disconnect in social norms. It's very funny. But then we get the ransom call, and this is where Norberg shows up because they tap the line, which requires Norberg, who is the new character, to hammer away at the phone during the ransom call. And during the ransom call, the mom is supposed to drag it out. It's unclear if she's talking to the daughter for proof of life or if she's talking to the kidnappers, but the mom starts giving math problems, all sorts of other things to try to keep the phone call going. But even though they get a tap on the phone, they don't successfully get a trace.
Because it's a tap for like beer. I don't know if you missed that gag.
I did miss that gag.
Okay.
So Kay Callan plays the mom. She's very good in that part. And then it ends. Norberg, proving he's just as dumb as the other two, comes over and asks her to explain the word problem to him. So in Police Squad, Norberg is played by Mr. Peter Lupus, who played Goliath and Spartacus and Hercules and some mid 60s probably Italian gladiator movies. He was a weightlifter.
Nice.
And he did not come back for the movies. His part was recast with a very popular football player, a very personable star of the 80s who just happened to kill his wife and her Grubhub guy, Mr. O.J. Simpson. I remember because before Naked Gun 3, so that was 94. So like when I was 13 and 14, I was like really into Naked Gun and Zaz because it was when Hot Shots came out and all that stuff. And I remember being super bummed out there wasn't a scene in the Naked Gun movie where, because Norberg in the movies is a master of disguise, where he could have just been this white guy in the precursor. But they also recast Ed for the movie. But anyway. So that's our OJ comment for this episode. So then Frank Frank and Ed start telling them a story about how they have to have the cops involved.
Oh, yeah.
And, there was this one case where somebody sent a piece of an ear. And
it's again their bedside manner gag where they keep making things worse in terms of the emotional well-being of the victims of this crime.
Yes.
i.e. her parents, by suggesting that she's going to be maimed, disfigured, or killed.
And they will return the piece of the ear to her if she's alive, so they could have it reattached or something. They're going to leave Norberg around to nose around, which doesn't become a word gag, but instead Norberg's response is, okay, now where's this ear at? Because he can't understand that the ear isn't already there because he can't follow it because he's a dummy.
Yeah.
Because it's funny. So now Frank goes to visit
Kingsley.
Kingsley, who's playing basketball. Now, this is where we get Frank crashing into a bunch of bikes when he parks.
He crashes into a bunch of bikes. I thought that was very
Yes,
funny. And I was concerned that this scene was also going to lean a little racist, but it did not.
it does not.
I did find it odd that Kingsley was wearing like slacks and a wool sweater to play basketball outside, but
his name is Kingsley.
it was weird.
His name's
But
Kingsley. I think that's.
But it turns into this phenomenal comedy scene where Leslie Nielsen is interviewing Kingsley to try to get more information about Kingsley himself, about the events of the evening, et cetera, et cetera. And he ends up playing basketball as well. And he nails a few good shots and he, gets, I think he ends up just stealing the ball and running down the court and doing a layup. He doesn't do a slam dunk or anything, but he scores and then he gets high fives from all the guys on the team, most of whom are African American. I don't know about all.
It's so 1980s. I think this probably went into the 90s a bit. Multicultural pickup basketball games. It's
Yeah.
always a mix.
Yeah.
Of men.
But it was very funny because he's wearing his suit and it's very cute. And then he's like he walks kind of awkwardly. I don't know. It was really weird. The additional little walk at the end when after he gets the high five of people and he just kind of looks awkward and dorky, but he's super cool.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny and he's cute and I loved him.
And so now when he's on his way away from, he gets a call on the radio, which is a funny sight gag where he has a third hand that hands him the radio, which is funny. And I actually was like, how did they do it? Did they have a person in there? Or did they just do it with editing? But I assume they had a person in the back seat. Okay, but he's got to go back to the mansion because there's been a ransom call. And this is your mime scene, which starts silly and just gets better and better. It's so weird because mimes get a bad rap through overusage, I would say. And also that most of your experiences in real life with a mime, like in front of a museum, are negative. So mimes can be very funny. And the mime in this is very funny. So the mime comes through the window attached to a boulder. So it's a play on the whole rock through the window with a ransom note. The mime is the ransom note. So there's some confusion about that. So somebody has to tell Frank that he's a mime so he can't talk. And so then they play charades. So you've got two morons, the captain and Frank, and then a complete idiot, Norberg, trying to decipher it while the parents, who are concerned because they got the ransom call, are to the side, but then they also want them to win the game. Norberg earns his place on the team here with some of his just like silly answers to things. But it takes quite a while, but they figure out where the ransom drop is supposed to be. And so, but some of the highlights were.
I can jump in now. So some of the highlights were that, again, Frank doesn't seem to know how charades is played. And so he keeps guessing the same things over and over, or just like variations of the same things over and over. And it's fucking stupid, fucking hilarious. And in addition to that, the Norberg is like making dumb suggestions. Like protein shake. It's really, really stupid and hilarious. And the captain seems to be the only one with a grasp of what's actually happening. But again, through teamwork, they discover that something about a bus depot on Thursday at 10 o'clock. They somehow get that all together. I particularly loved the mime doing the bust thing. Like, sounds like bust, and he's kind of doing this directly on his chest. That made me laugh really hard. Because I love dirty things. But It was really silly and really funny. And the look on this, I would have think I don't know if I would have liked it more if the mime got frustrated with them and just told them, like just started talking. But if it had gone that direction, I think it would have been equally funny.
So they don't have a lot of time, even though they don't tell us what day it is. And so then it's time for Act Two after the commercial break. Act Two, Ball Three. And we are at the police lab back with the doctor or Mr. or I don't know what his official title is, but he is what is it? Mr. Olson. So he is doing a gravity experiment with the kid of the week. And so they've got a guy hung up on the ceiling and a bowling ball, and they're going to drop them at the same time to show how they fall at the same time. And so they're going to watch from a safe distance, but then in comes Frank. So Mr. Olson sends Billy, the kid, home. And instead of saying, bring your mom's panties from the dirty clothes, he says, next week, I'll show you 10 things you can do with a carrot, which is less obviously obscene. And this whole thing with because in the other ones, he was setting up to kill the kid with his experiment.
Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, I want your mom's bras.
Yeah.
And I actually was like, did standards and practices from ABC go, you got to tone it down with the implied pedophilia and child murder? Like, down a notch.
Maybe next week we'll find out. Maybe we won't.
Maybe we won't. But yes, so then they go into the computer room. Sadly, no cameo by Chuck Wagner. And they're listening to audio from the phone call that Frank wasn't there for, that he hadn't gotten there for. And so they hear a bell and foghorn, to which they say they must be at the lake. Now, police squad shoots on a backlot in LA. It has made regional jokes before, but it has never made like a regional distinction about itself. And then the Naked Gun movies, I think, are just set in straight LA.
Yeah.
But not this. So then we get Frank going to the lakefront. Or no, he says lakefront. We don't go to the lakefront yet, because first we have to have the gravity experiment go off in the other thing. And so that's funny. And then Frank gets on the elevator with Ed. And Ed seems to be waiting for him to come on so they can do the bit.
Yeah.
Which is that we then reverse the shot. And so it's a very, we're breaking the wall. We're cheating and shooting from outside the elevator very clearly. But we're doing that so we can see somebody get on the elevator in what appears to be a hotel lobby and ride it to an opera stage, where she then gets out and, like you had wanted last time, immediately starts performing.
Yeah.
And they start throwing her flowers, some of which end up in the elevator. So that was very funny.
Agreed.
Let's see then. Okay, so then they get up to the station where some guy is holding up the cops and Frank accidentally saves the day. And this is when they then look at the city map, and it's a World War II map.
Yeah.
And then Tall Al shows up and they yell at him about his regulation headgear, to which he takes off his sombrero. And Frank is like staring at it in confusion. Okay, so then this is where Frank goes to the lakefront. Now, this is very clearly shot on a soundstage. It's just a dozen women in bikinis doing
jumping jacks. Yeah. I don't know.
And Frank's trying to pay attention to detail, but yeah. Okay. So then
stupid.
Something about the dad and the ransom money? You remember this? Yes, he comes to the station. He comes to the station because Frank offers him a cup of coffee, and he says, yes, I know.
Yes.
But then they realize it's a gas station in some of the biggest location footage.
They go, so Frank and Ed are at a gas station, and they hear the noise, and that's when they're like, wait a minute, we've been going about this all wrong.
It's a gas station.
Yeah, they're somewhere at a gas station, and then they listen to the noise that they think is a foghorn, and they're like, "Oh, it's some tuba thing.
Yes.
It's a
The
tuba."
captain, in his glove box, which is full of gloves, has here's like a tuba 8-track, the best of
Yes.
tuba,
Yeah.
1981 or something. But then it turns out this is going to be complicated because they live in the tuba capital of the world. And so there are tuba places all over the place. And
Yeah.
when they are trying to find the tuba shop, Al walks through the background and he is wearing a t-shirt for Tuba City, which turns out not to be the solution. It's just a reference to the ubiquity of tubas in the police squad city. So they're running out of time. So Ed tells Frank to go check with his sources. It's our only chance. So he goes to the shoe shine guy, who tells him there's a new tuba club in town, and they hadn't been calling the tuba clubs.
The tubador,
The
something like that.
Tubador, I believe.
Something
And so
like that.
Frank leaves to go save the day, and Mr. Tommy Lasorda sits down and asks the shoeshine guy for coaching advice. And after giving the shoeshine guy some extra cash, they start talking about how Tommy Lasorda can improve the team. So that is a relatively big cameo.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know,
I
at
don't
that
know
point
anything
in
about baseball, and I know who Tommy Lasorda is, for
Tommy
one.
Lasorda, the face of baseball in the 80s or whatever. Yeah. So he appeared in quite a few things as Tommy Lasorda. I'm looking at his IMDb right now.
Yeah.
He appeared in Ed the movie with Matt LeBlanc as Tommy Lasorda. He appeared on Silver Spoons as Tommy Lasorda. He appeared on Simon and Simon as Tommy Lasorda. He appeared on Chips as Tommy Lasorda. He appeared on Heart to Heart as Tommy Lasorda. He appeared on Fantasy Island as Tommy Lasorda, and maybe more, but those are the ones that just come up. So Tommy Lasorda guest starring on something as Tommy Lasorda was a trope even at this time. Then we cut to the club where Frank crashes into the cans, meaning we get 2 car gags in
Yep.
one episode. And so he sees the girl coming out across the street from the club. He reaches off, or from off screen, someone hands him a megaphone so he can announce that he is a police officer and they should clear the street, which includes someone having to, a cowboy and somebody having to get on the horse and ride away. This is, I was like, this is what shooting on the back lot gave you. Like, there's a lot of potential for this. And it's one of the things we've kind of lost, that you've lost the a reverence of crossing over what you could do on a back lot, which is too bad.
Yeah.
So the captain shows up. The bad guy's wearing a mask, and they're shooting at each other from across the street. They're undercover, or Frank is behind the trash cans, I think.
Is it the trash cans or the park bench again? I don't remember.
I think it's the trash cans. You don't remember.
I don't remember.
He's hiding. Captain shows up, says, "Cover me." So Frank puts his jacket over the captain's head. So then we get the captain bumbling through he like goes behind into the club that they're in front of because he can't see anything. I thought the bit initially was that he was going to be successful as he was covered. He's not. He bumbles in the background of the whole scene. It's hilarious. I don't know if they got Alan North doing it or like a stuntman, but it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It culminates in him crashing into the cans across the street near the bad guy. Okay, so at that point, and falling down. At that point, the bad guy then has his own megaphone to yell at Frank. Frank says, "Well, if you've got a hostage, I'm taking a hostage too," which I don't know if it's the first time this bit's been used, but it's on the early end of it, I feel like, because it's a very 70s, 80s hostage TV scene trope that they're playing with. But then the bad guy trips over the captain. It becomes incapacitated. The girl is rescued. They realize it's the butler. They ask him why. He says he needs the money. That's the end of that. And
So this is back to the girl being adorable. Like, she's so happy that she's rescued, and she gives Alan North a big hug. And there's an opportunity for it to be creepy, and it never gets creepy. It's just sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. It's just sweet. And I think maybe because I was expecting it to be creepy, it's that much nicer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird where they never go so far. It's not like the CSI guy was helping her. Okay. So then there's one last joke before the epilogue. The black and white is here, and it's a zebra. So waka waka. I guess they didn't want to do a white cop and a black cop, and the white cop was black and the black cop was white. So we go to the epilogue where we hear that Butler's up in Stateville. Then we get a rundown of the previous villains of the show, and there's a fourth one, or there's a third one already, I think, or even maybe a fourth one already. So we are now out of order in airing. I don't know if we're going to get back into order. I don't know if this was part of the gag or whatever. But then we get the end credits gag, which is like you mentioned, we had been wondering about it last time, and it is the same this time. Well, they made the arrest in the Zoo murders case while Frank was off solving this. And that's just foreground action. And then you notice in the background that the chimp is under arrest at one of the desks. And so once it goes to freeze, they apparently then told the chimp just to fuck around. And he jumps to another desk, tears up some papers. It is delightful. And hopefully no animals were harmed in the making of the show. But given where Zaz ended up, they probably ate his brains after that. So right now I'm just going to talk until Emily can come back, and then we will have her record about this, because this is her bit, actually, even though I thought it was funny. But still, I'm not as big a fan of abused animals as Emily. I'm a pet lover. I don't think we should make chimps abuse us. We could do those old movies where they were just chimps, like beaten into submission to, do comedy bits.
Fuck you, first of all. I love animals. Fuck you. I love animals. They're my favorite. But in the last episode, I had said, oh my God, I hope that keeps going and it gets wilder and wilder, and that there's something where there's a child or there's an animal that is out of control. I did not want an animal to be abused or harmed. I did not explicitly say I wanted a monkey. Kind of like the monkey. But if it was a dog, if it was something else, like jumping up and kind of wilding out, and you could see the look on Alan North and Leslie Nielsen's face, that they were just like, they kind of had their eyes in the direction of the chimp the whole time. Because you never know. You never know. But like, how many times did they have to shoot it? Yeah.
Like, this is the greatest behind the, like, that day of shooting must have been amazing. Because it's just like,
because they can't look forward because there's somebody in front of them directing the chimp, right? There's somebody doing that. And they kind of can't let on that that's happening, because I know I'm not a trained anything, but if somebody were directing something in front of me and I had to ignore it, my eyeballs would be following whatever that person's hands were doing. So I thought it was a brilliant scene.
And there's also this really nice thing where you can tell that when the chimp's like, wait, do I really get to do this?
Yeah.
It's got to behave during the initial scene, and then it doesn't have to behave anymore.
Well, it's probably trained to do that specific thing, right? Like, I need you, like, I'm going to do this for you to come forward. I'm going to do this when you can rip the piece of paper. I'm going to do this when you can throw it up in the air. Like, they're trained to do things on command.
That's true, but they're also pretty smart. They can use iPads too.
Yeah.
So we don't want to impugn the creativity of this unpaid extra.
And how dare you suggest that I'm anything but kind and loving and caring animals? I like animals more than I like people.
I mean, that's not It's not hard. And so, a successful episode.
Yeah.
Not as good as the first one, but better than
Better than
last
the last
week's.
one. Yeah.
And it's a rare thing where you throw in a third wheel and it completely works out. But
Hmm.
Nordberg is just the right amount. He's just stupider than Frank, so it just works out. And Ed is not smart enough to want Frank to. So it's a nice mix of
Yeah.
dum dums in this. It's very good.
So next episode is called Revenge and Remorse or The Guilty Alibi. Some special guest stars in beyond just the one who dies in the beginning. And I'm not going to give it away this time.
No spoilers. Yeah.
Because I'm a bad kid. Yeah, I'm really excited. I hope it keeps getting better. We're halfway through this
Yeah, we are halfway through.
and then I get to pick the next one, right?
Yes, you do.
All right. Got some ideas.
Desi Arnaz Jr. probably did some other shows.
Oh, well, you can pick them for your turn then.
A flashback that everybody is just thrilled about. The discussion of Desi Arnaz Jr. for 20 hours. Okay.
Well, thank you all for listening. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.